And this is a gathering
Go ahead.
in the famous Halpert house, which is my sister Gail and my dear beloved brother-in-law, Irving Halpert. We are all gathered here together.
Okay.
We are all gathered here together for the future generations to tell them the history, where we come from, and what we are, and who we are. Now, I'm going to have a drink and wish everybody a l'chaim.
I just want to say something.
No.
My brother Bernie and my sister-in-law Bella's here. You forgot to say my other sister-in-law Jeannie. My sister Harriet is here. Thank God she's smiling now because we're awaiting her beloved husband to be here any minute.
And now we make l'chaim, l'chaim we say, we make
Get up here.
a lot of simchas.
L'chaim, Teilem,
Nachas van de kinderen.
L'chaim.
And get up here.
By the way, this is scotch. He's drinking rye.
Okay.
And what you are
Okay.
drinking.
Rice, scotch, mix.
No,
Are you gonna do
no.
that?
Ma, don't edit.
Hey,
Let him say whatever.
you're gonna do that? I don't care what.
And let's just hope that by the end. Huh?
What?
you stop it or you let it go.
Oh, you go, all right. Then I'll stop it for.
Why?
Everybody's very hungry.
nog
Okay,
niet.
Bella,
Oh.
dat is de laatste wat er in mag spelen. Ben je gebaruid
Ik
in
zal-
de
Waiting for my daughter yet.
Okay, that's for the future generations. I want you to remember the date when we gathered all of us together to tell the history of us, what we lived through, because we are all Holocaust survivors. As you know, the date is Tuesday, January 1st, 1991. You should remember, New Year's Day, we all get together here. Now, we're gonna start now telling the history. Everybody should tell his own history. As I am the oldest here, so I'm gonna start with the history. Harriet, don't tell me I'll die first, I'm the oldest. Okay, I'm gonna start the history. Okay, kids, future generations. We come from a town,
Nou, Bella.
we come from a town, Oberwischow, it's in Marmorisch. You wouldn't know where Marmorisch is, let me explain you where it is. Before the 1918 war, it was the Habsburg monarchy, the Austro-Hungarian dynasty. It was. And Marmorisch was a part of the Austro-Hungarian. After the Sherry Saddam,
Yeah.
after the First World War, when they demolished the Austrian-Hungarian monarchy, they gave a piece to Czechoslovakia, a piece was given to Yugoslavia, and a piece was given to Romania, and who was getting another piece? We fell under the part which had become Romania. Now let me tell
Say
you
the
what
borders, please. Which border Marmorish? I mean,
Marmorish borders. Marmorish was chopped into two
Yeah,
sections.
all right,
One section was left to Slovakia,
Yes.
and one section was given to Romania.
What kind of a people did was the Marmorish? What kind of a language did they
All
speak
right,
there?
now I'm going to tell you.
Tell me the language they speak there, Marmorish.
We were brought up as Jewish-speaking people. Where did the population come to Marmorish? The people came over from Poland, which had borders with Stanislav, with Kolomai, with Stri, with Galicia. Marmorish is blessed with a lot of forests, lumber industry. They were making their boards, lumber. Why you want? They were making their lumber
Finish your attention to that.
for building houses. And
What did they
needed-
sell the wood, Harry? What did they sell it?
I'll tell you what they sold it for.
Sold it for.
They were
Where?
making the lumber and it was transported into Hungary, to Austria.
That time was Hungary or Romanian? That time what you
I'm
talking
talking
now?
it's Austria-Hungary,
All
let me
right.
reden.
Okay. Harry,
The
please,
lumber
try
was
to-
sent in.
Easier.
The lumber was sent to Hungary. And Hungary was sending food, grain, everything, oil, everything was coming from Hungary. In 1918, when they gave it to Hungary, I mean to Romania, that piece of Marmorish, We were brought up in the biggest misery. Work, it wasn't. Why? Because Romania didn't need the lumber, and Romania had enough wood, which it didn't need it. And we were brought up as Jewish people with the synagogues, with learning. Schooling, it was only 4 elementary classes, nothing more. But we learned Yiddish
Ma.
and Haider, and we were brought up. We were brought up as Jewish-speaking people. Now we'll go further. That was
Excuse me, we
no.
also spoke Jewish, Romanian, German,
The-
Hungarian.
The
And our
language of the country was Romanian, but we didn't know Romanian when I went to school. I did not know
But
Romanian.
Harry, we also had some industrial thing in Bishop
What
too.
kind? What did
You
you
had, what did they make,
What?
leather, we had
It
a,
was close. It was
Harry, no,
already
no, we had it, Harry.
in the Austro-Hungarian times. In our times, it was finished already. It
What
didn't.
you talking about already in our time, Romania?
And now in the 30th. In the 30th, the Velvet Lederfabriek was finished already.
We had a Schachtelfabrik, what,
Right, the
what is that, what was
that's
that?
an industry for him.
No, not American.
Little boxes they were
Boxes.
making. The Henkes were working in the Schachtelfabrik. That
Yeah,
was his
but around the
industry.
dog, no.
It was nothing, no industry,
Yeah.
nothing there.
Yeah.
So
And then wood, we had four factories or whatever you call it, wood tank, a lot of people was employed in those things, Harry.
I told you that was lumber mills.
So Lumberman, how many? Say it. You
That
saw the
was
name?
From the time, you know the name, you tell the name.
It was the rarest
You think the
thing.
kids are interested in the name of the lumber mills? Side up, know the
kids.
lumber
Let 'em say
mill
what he
story. Okay.
Harry, they had, there was one was from the state, and the other one was private enterprises. And there was a lot of people working over there. Oh, they didn't pay much, but they was working.
But
You worked yourself in one of them. I took you the food there. It was about 3 miles. I took you the lunch all the
No.
time.
Heritage.
Excuse me, I think
Yeah.
it was Srulika we took him the food.
No,
Where?
no.
I think it was Srulika with the bicycle, but can't.
No, I did not. I had a bicycle.
Arbeidsers are
Yeah, I took him the food. He worked. He worked.
Lang moet je gaan water. Can I go further now? Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
I took you the food for lunchtime, but I gotta say that, Harry, you weren't too happy working. One time you told me lunchtime with the food, maybe you want to stay for me, I want to go home. I said, no, Harry, I don't know, I didn't want to do that. I said, you do
I
the
was
work.
gonna say
I said, you
you're
took the
I'm afraid
job.
of game.
I was only, but it was 14 years that time, 15
I
years.
don't
You want me
think
to
so,
stay and
even
work.
40, 50.
So you want me to stay and work there in the lumber yard. It was heavy work. You know, we didn't have things to pick up those
And
things.
also you were very young that time
Well,
when
he
you
says,
worked in those
he says I
days.
wasn't even 14 years old.
No, sure.
But
You think the kids, the children will be interested to hear all those
Oh,
stories
definitely.
from-
Definitely. Harriet, 25, 30 years from now, it'll be a novelty.
Of course, we
Like
didn't
we
have
the
videos, we
movies
didn't
are
have.
now,
Yeah.
the CDs are
Actually, we
now.
didn't have
But
videos.
you should make it shorter because everybody to interview is going to take a little quite a
Harry,
while.
go ahead.
Now you go
I
back.
should go,
No,
okay.
don't Srulika little.
No, but
I
No,
Shirley
that's
doesn't
not
have
his
to.
belong- I
family. He
doesn't
don't
belong
belong
to
You
to
belong in
He's
this
just
family.
After
married
that,
to,
like I said,
he's just married to a bitch.
I married
He
into.
belongs here, but he's, okay.
I just want to say a few words.
Okay, you want to say a few
No,
words?
no, 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 no.
Okay, if you want me to go further,
Yeah.
I was born in 1920, which you figured it out. By 91,
No, yeah, okay.
I cashed my 71st already.
You did?
We go first in
You
the
will.
20s.
High.
In the 30s, when it was the, how should I say, the depression in the United States, we had a big depression there too. It was no work, and it wasn't in each house. God bless them, it was no television, it was 7, 8 kids. We were 8 kids in the family. One son was Meyer, and we had Meyer died in the First World War. He got sick.
He
and we
was
didn't
3
have-
years old.
He
So
was
you should say the age.
He was 3 years old.
3 years old.
Okay.
And I don't know, he had high fever, and they didn't have the medication there. Okay, the kid died. Then we had a sister Rose, which survived the Holocaust, and she came to the United. And by the way, she married over there in Europe, yet in Wishow, and she married Nathan Nochem Pasternak because he wanted to keep the name in the family.
He was a second cousin.
A second cousin, and they survived the Holocaust both, and they came to the United States, and she died. She developed multiple sclerosis sickness, and she died here in the United States in New York, and around 75.
74 or 75? 73.
1973,
Yeah.
okay, Carol corrected me,
Carol
1973.
went cross country.
Okay, and then I am Harry Pasternak als real. Als toen de Schweden van mir, van dir niet.
No, the next year.
No.
I was born in 1920 as real. I had my education in Wisho, the four elementary schools. And then I have a sister younger than me, Ariad, Chayo. And then I have a brother, Beryl. And then a sister, Gitul. We have two more sisters, Esther and Peño, which perished in the Holocaust. Now we'll go further. We were brought up very happy children, very healthy and happy, and everything went fine. In 1940, if you learn the history, after the Vienna negotiation,
Okay, I'll tell you later.
according to the Germans, they had in Vienna negotiations, in the part of Marmorish, which we come from, it was given back to Hungary. Now, that was in 1940. In the years when the Germans had attacked Poland, which demolished them, the Germans had occupied already. Austria was in 38, and Czechoslovakia was in 39, and 1940. They occupied Belgium, Holland, and France, and they occupied then the Scandinavian countries, Sweden and Norwegian, in Denmark, no, not Sweden. Sweden wasn't actually neutral. No. And then they were fighting with England. In 39, they attacked Poland too, and then they stopped. When they saw they couldn't go further into England, they attacked the Soviet Union. That was in 1940.
This way.
And in 41, I was taken in.
Something.
Harry, look towards the camera. There you go.
I was taken into the army as slave labor. Now I'll tell you the story of myself.
Oh, okay, next year.
I was taken into slave labor, which I was there for 4 years. I was going to tell you more particulars, but I was told here very short. Okay, we'll make it short. We'll make it short. After the war, in 46, I was back in Wisho end of 44. The war ended in May 1945. By the way, Gail and Harriet and Bernie, they were in concentration camps. And Esther and Peña, they perished in concentration camps. And in 45, they came home to
You maybe
Wisho.
keep the yorts out in Hanukkah.
Foresta.
And I was there end of 44. When they came home, we were there till 46, and then we all picked up, and we went to Germany. Harriet met a fellow, Emil. And Gail met a fellow, but it was Leo. Now, the husbands, Sal Wiesel, I want you to know, if I would have let her marry Emil, you wouldn't have had a wife. Better than that. I know that you're in Israel so lonesome, all alone. I had a conversation with my sister, and she went to Israel, and she brought you over here. Okay, how lucky you were. Now, can I tell the story of Zoli?
Ah, yes.
Once I caught Gail kissing with Zoli.
So what?
It was left enough.
He was a
It
good-looking fellow.
was part of growing
He
up.
was tall,
Yeah.
nice-looking fellow. So was Emil, Harriet's boyfriend.
As
She had those days. Very good.
as time marched, we all arrived to the United States, and we all settled.
Where
in
did
New
Zoli
York.
go? Where did Zoli Emil go?
Australia.
Emil
Oh, pretty
also.
soon, if Gail would have gone there, I would have had where to go.
Excuse me, Bernie.
Yeah.
Emil and Zoli before they left to Australia, they asked Harriet and
I know
myself
it, if they
if
want
we
to go
want
with
to
them. I'm a
marry them
witness.
to go there.
Ja,
But
vi
of course, we
skulle
had
kunna
family in
If I would have let him go, you would
We
have
didn't
not
go.
You have to tell what the end said. You want to see that? Why we
And we came here. Okay.
No, maar laat
In
maar-
Laat
19
zijn geel naar
maar-
Israël.
in 1949,
And then you.
we all immigrated to New York, and we all settled. Naturally, as I was the oldest,
Yes.
Jeannie Grinker was a girl in New York. She was very lucky. She got me.
Harry, I want Jimmy to tell the story how she met you.
Okay,
You know.
ladies and gentlemen and children and future generations, I hand over the word to Jeannie. Gail wanted to tell everybody how she met me. Okay, Jeannie, your
You want to
next.
know how I met this guy?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, look at the camera.
How you fell in love with him.
I went to a dance, Hotel Diplomat.
Right.
They made that in Times
means-
Square.
You went hunting.
At that time, in those years, it was all right.
Dancing place.
Then he saw me. We went in the same elevator up to the dance. We looked at each other, and I went on my way. I think I went to the. I think I went to the ladies' room. I went to the ladies' room, and he came out. When I came out, he was there waiting for me, and that's how we met.
And then you got married.
He always says that he's. I resembled a cousin of his. I think Ann Pasternak, right? That's how I caught your attention.
In
But
bed of I took her home.
Yeah.
I
Harry.
asked her if she let me take her home. I took her home, and I made a date with her for Wednesday.
Yes.
I went over Wednesday.
Yes.
From the Bronx to Brooklyn.
Round to, you were worth it. And then I took
That's
her
a
out
question
another
mark.
few times, and then she invited me to her parents' house.
Yes.
I am in the house there, so her sister Edith, she should rest in peace, comes in and she grabs her. Jeannie, where did you get that wap? So she had
Go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
she had to explain her the whole story from the beginning. Now that you know what happened, I married Jeannie and we had a daughter Annette and we have a son Mari. Annette has a daughter Denise and Mari has a girl Danny, and then he manufactured two boys with one shot, Adam and Jeremy. Two kleine Putzuki.
Okay.
Can I
Now,
just say? Okay, go
I
ahead.
have to handle
Wait,
over.
Harry, I just want to say two
Say.
words. I want to tell you, everybody, whoever is going to watch this tape, that Harry is a very lucky man to have found a girl like Jeannie. We all love her very much.
Very
And
good.
now,
She's like a sister to us.
okay, and now I want Harriet to say a few
Now
words.
let Bernie say.
No, Harriet is next.
Harriet, say how you met Sal, you know.
Just when Sal will be here, then
Okay.
I'm going to
Yeah.
say.
All right.
Okay, you
Let
Oh.
Bernie, I wait for Sal.
Harry already said the story when we were growing up, from where we came.
Talk a little bit about home, about your parents.
That's what we get now.
Okay.
We gotta go.
Mommy will talk about
So
it.
that's, Harry already said that we came from a place where they call it Vișeu. In Romanian they call it Vișeu de Sus. I remember myself since I was a very little boy, due to the fact, actually when you were born you already had to be self-sufficient, even those days. Now I was, I don't remember how many years I was, so my mother, should rest in peace, put me to take care of my younger sister Gail. So those days we had that thing, that little thing, I don't know how they call it. A cradle.
A week.
A wiggle. They call it a wiggle.
Cradle like the
And,
Belgian.
and Gail was, of course, I was a small kid too. I can't remember how, maybe 4 years. Or
If
so.
I was in a cradle, I was a little baby.
Was a little baby, correct.
You're never a baby.
All my friends were playing outside. We had a long, like it was like a driving
Yes.
a string. We had a long thing, and I was looking out of the window, and everybody was playing ball.
Here is the picture from Zoli and
He's
Abby.
talking, Harry.
So what happened? The boys were playing their ball, and I wanted to go out so bad and play ball. But I had to shake the baby because she was crying, you know. So I shake the baby, and then I got an idea what to do, how to take care of the situation. I took a piece of string, I don't know how many, maybe 2 feet or 3 feet or a few yards, and I tapped into that thing. The way that cradle was built, it was going back and forth. Yes. So I was pulling this thing back and forth, and I was watching.
Her mouth with this
And I was watching the children play over there. But one guy hit a home run, whatever it was those days. We didn't have baseball, but it resembled like baseball. So what happened? I pulled it suddenly. I pulled the whole thing because I wanted to look outside. What happened? The baby fall on the floor. By the window, fall on the floor. I got very scared. It was a hard floor. There was no rocks.
How old were you, Ma?
I don't know, maybe 6 months. So what happened? I got very scared. I shouldn't get a beating because beating there was cheap. The cheapest thing was the thing.
Our parents never had us.
No, but not,
they were beating
but Gail, not when you do something like this, you throw a baby in the floor.
Yeah.
So what happened? I got very scared. I took the little legs and I picked it up and I throw it back in the cradle. Let me believe like nothing happened.
Yeah.
My mother should have to be comes and she says, "My God, Beryl, what happened? The baby's talking, it's moving already." I says, "No, it's not moving." He said, "Well, I put it this way, how come it's this way?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "Maybe the kid is already moving around." She says, "On that age?" I said, "It's a miracle." I said, "The kid moved around." But I don't remember telling really the true story for my mother what happened. Maybe I did.
You performed a lot of miracles. One day you come from school with wet pants. So they ask you, Beryl, what happens? Your pants are wet. So he said, "The rabbit me rangepischt."
That was a story. That was the truth because you were afraid for the rabbi even to say you go to the bathroom. Now, I went to school, I went to Cheder, and there, and Cheder, the name of the game was beating. So they beat, I don't know, we were there, about 20 children we were in that school over there. My wife likes the story. Before I continue that, I'm going to tell you something else. I had a new suit, and I figured with a new suit, I had long pants. I says, "You can't go with long pants with a new suit. How are you going to look with pants and a suit?" So what happened? We came from the side of the monsters. And then I went to shul. First of all, I took a knife and I cut my pants off with a knife. But definitely, I didn't make the pies even. One was up and one was down. And that was Rosh Hashanah.
Yom Kippur.
Well, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Then I went to shul and my father looked at me, he fixed my head, trimmed, the yarmulke, everything fixed, and then he tried to fix my pies. He tries one, he says, "It's not one." He tries the other one. What happened? Before even he asked me what happened, boom. Then the front of the whole shul over there. And then they ask him, 100% believe me. So they ask him, "Why did you hit him?" He says he's cut the pies in Rosh Hashanah.
I thought you said there, when you got to shoot, I thought you said to my father that your guy got caught in a navy.
They didn't even ask the question. First I got a beating and then they asked the question what happened.
If what happened there, when my mother made the plätzlich on Friday, and you came back and told me you ate the plätzlich with a nail, you swallowed the nail.
Then I was a vampire in general when I was a kid.
Can I say something?
No. Then what happened, I went to Cheder, I was already a little bigger, and the rabbi had a stick. They call it a yamstekel. I don't know what kind of wood.
It's
But it's bamboo. It was not a gito.
Bamboo.
So I don't, yeah, it looks like bamboo. So the rabbi was sitting on the top there, and I was all the way in the end. But the rabbi, the stick must have been, I don't know how many feet. It reached to everybody. One of those days, I said, I got together all the boys. I said, "Listen, I'm going to do something with that stick." So what happened? I cut the stick off in 5-6 inches, but I didn't cut the whole thing. I just cut it in pieces, no. And then the rabbi, first he asked me a question right away, and I didn't know the answer, which is the truth. I didn't know. He picks up the stick, he wants to hit me, the stick fall apart in pieces. But I was talking with all the boys not to say the rabbi, not to tell the rabbi, not to tell the rabbi what happened. But the kids got so scared, they all said, battle did it, battle did it. Then I got really got
And the gebrachte Weine.
Then I
But
got
ours was the story that if you put the stick on with garlic, we put on the stick with garlic, then it falls apart.
And then little by little we grow up.
Did you take the rabbi's beer to the
I want to tell you, if I wouldn't get that beating that time, I wouldn't know how to dove now. And that's why I know how to dove now. Because I was beating into me.
Can I tell how you met your lovely wife, Bella? She's not from Aramory.
I would like Bella to tell
Okay,
the
Bella,
story.
let's hear.
So each one says a little.
Let's hear, right.
You know,
So then we grow up, we came to this country, and then I met my wife.
Los in Bella, Red.
Harry, you had C4.
No, ich red sie mir. No, Bella, let's hear.
We are introducing
Could you-
Mrs. B. Pasternak.
Could you talk into the camera?
In 1952,
When did you come to the States? From there, start from there.
I came to the States in 1946, December.
You arrived.
Just 2 days before Christmas. I left from Bremerhaven with a boat, and the channels, in the English channels, the boat had a hole, and we had to go over the boat and jump in the little rafts till another boat came to pick us up. It was an army boat. By the time I got here, it was just about Christmas. And I arrived to the Bronx. They waited for children. We were the second transport with children coming over. When we arrived in the orphanage home, believe it or
The
not,
Holocaust survived children.
believe it or not, after the war, there were cribs waiting for us. They really thought they were getting babies. I was in the home 3 days. And then after that, I went to Mount Vernon, where I lived by my mother's cousin. And I was there until I got married. Bernie,
She
I
was
met,
so good to her, like your own mother.
We would like to know how you met your lovely husband.
And then, what happened after? How did
in
you met?
1951, I went to Hotel Diploma for a dance.
The same hotel where Jeannie went.
Could you
I
talk
did
to the camera?
really that
Talk
time.
to the
It's
camera.
possible that we were in the same time in the place when I
She went
went.
hunting then.
I went hunting with quite a few friends of ours from the lager, and some of them that lived in the Bronx. And it was a pudding party. And I didn't see Bernie, he saw me. I was with friends, and a couple of days later I got a telephone call. This is Aurel speaking. I would like to make a date with you. From where do you know me? Somebody told me that you come from Romania.
My girlfriend.
I didn't know who, he didn't say, he said somebody. So he made a date, and on the first date when he came out, Jeannie and Harry came over with him. Harry had a Fraser
Kaiser Fraser.
car.
It eat more gas, more oil than anything.
I wasn't so cheap with the gas like you are.
And this is the way I met him, so we went out
You
for a
have to-
while.
But wait a while. Aurel is my name. He used my name.
They said she's from Romanian.
No, because you were
She was said for Romanian.
No, it was the name Romanian, so he figured being I'm from Romania, he would say Aurel. And
So you
Wait a while now. But she is not from Armor. She's from a big city, which is called Deish.
Deish.
That's in Transylvania. That's called Zimberg. But Zimberg, she fell into a family, a lobby family, loyal, and devoted to
let
each
her
other.
say that. Don't say that.
Harry, I want to say something. We are happy to have a sister-in-law like Bella. She is very devoted to the family, and she's very honest, and we all love her, and they should live together bis 120 Q.
Amen.
No,
Okay, now you say something, Harriet. Let's go further.
I
Okay, let's
thought
go.
I'd wait for Sal to say.
No, say now a little few words.
Sherry,
Okay, that's
Bella, you finished?
okay,
She wanted to
Harriet.
say about the boy,
you
she
say,
wanted to say
you
about
I let
the...
you say.
Okay, do I start?
You could stand. Yeah.
Harriet, that's it.
No, you're next.
Okay, we are waiting for my husband. He's still in the bakery. I hope he'll be here soon, and after he comes, I'm going to say some more. Now I'm giving the word to my sister Gail.
Okay.
Okay, is it working, Sherry?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to talk a little bit about home. We had two loving parents, my father and my mother. They were lovely people. My father was a very educated, learned man, and he also entertained at the weddings. Everybody was after him. If somebody got married in Europe, from miles away, if my father couldn't go to entertain at the wedding, they used to wait for months till he could come. My mother was a very good housewife. She brought us up the right way. We were 7 children home and a grandmother. Times were a little difficult because it was hard to make a living for so many people. Can you imagine to buy 7 children, a mother, a father, and a grandmother? That's 10 people. Twice a year shoes. Usually we got shoes for Rosh Hashanah.
Summer we were going barefoot.
And Pesach. But we ran around. We ran around. You people interrupting. We had 4 large rooms at home. Those large rooms consisted of 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, and a hall.
En dat zeker?
Yeah, the sicker.
Met een slaak?
Yes, well that's I'm coming
Okay,
to.
come to it.
A schlag was weer roet te
That's right, daarover en daarover. Hij moet er ook gevallen, dat slaak. Hij ook gevallen op de andere dag, because he opened too much, it fall down. Hij was 30 jaar met hem.
Ik wil niet, ik wil een man.
Okay, shall I continue?
Yeah, continue. Yeah.
Okay. As children, of course we used to fight a lot, especially we had pillow fights. And you know those pillows ripped and all the feathers were all over the house. So my mother used to always, my God, what am I going to do with you children? My brother Harry, I'll start with him. Rose, I should say about Rose. Rose was a very beautiful girl.
Rest in peace.
She was a very good child. My brother Harry, he was very devoted to the family. He worked and he always helped us.
I
even-
brought you the first pair of shoes when you went to concentration camp.
Right.
That was after the war.
And wait a while, another thing I want to tell about
Yeah.
her. When we left Europe to the
Okay.
American zone, that was after the war, to leave to the west. So we left Romania, we smuggled the border into Hungary, and no passports, no nothing. As we got into Hungary, we wanted to go further.
To
West.
Vienna.
So what did we do? We got into a railroad station, was there a freight
Kijk in
train,
de front, hè.
a freight train. And we all jumped up on the roof of that train. And the train is about ready to leave. I take a look, my sister Gail is still on the floor. I jumped off from the
Okay,
roof.
to the
I
camp.
jumped off from the roof, down on the ground, and I grabbed my sister Gail. I threw her up on the roof, and that's how she is here, and that's how your father carried her, because of white. Otherwise, she would have been
Now,
there.
now what I say a few
And then when
words.
the train started to go, there was a tunnel, and my brother pushed our heads down. We shouldn't get killed from the
Right,
tunnel.
because-
From the low bridges.
The reason I didn't go up was because I just froze. I couldn't move.
You wanted to travel first class.
It was a funny bedtime.
So can I say a few words?
Not yet. I want to just say something about my sister Harriet. She was a very talented girl. I want to tell you.
She wasn't loose.
She used to take a piece of material. Either she make a pocketbook for me, or she'll do things, or make a, you know, in the
Muff.
winter time.
Muffs.
Or she'll make slippers. She'll make.
Yeah.
But also, she wasn't such a. She was a
She
good
was a
sister.
Russia.
Not great when it came to something. My grandfather had a little grocery store, and there were steps. And one day my sister is sitting at those steps and she has a blanket on her. And I come out, it was raining, it was like a misty day. And I said, Harriet, kan ik nog die dek met een blanket? She said no. And no, she started to sing, Mieren waren, mieren kalm, mieren waren, mieren kalm. And we were really young kids, but she's a great sister and I love her.
Thank you
I
so
can't do
much.
without
Okay, a
her.
little correction in this case.
Yeah.
When we got into Austria, in the west already, we settled in a camp, in a DP camp. Over there, naturally the girls went to learn a trade. They went to the art school to learn dressmakers, Harriet and Gail. Harriet was a dressmaker, he can't get a diploma.
But
Okay,
about my brother Bernie, I want to say this.
Before,
He's,
okay.
you want to say something, honey? I just want to finish
Go
about Bernie.
ahead.
Bernie was a very good brother, very good with his hands. He always did electrical things at home. Once he made a telephone, if I recall, I don't remember, it was already, we were in the ghetto, I think, and we weren't allowed to have radios or anything. I think he
You were
put,
allowed, you didn't have.
no, Harry,
You were allowed to.
No, there was not allowed
There
radio.
was no allowed to
Harry, you weren't in the
No,
ghetto.
Who had a radio?
Harry, but
There was radio. There was radio.
Anyway.
No, not by us.
But anyway, they had Harry still held. They were people, you
There
know.
were people
But
who had
anyway,
radios, but
he
we
They
put
had
didn't.
telephone too.
you remember you
I
put,
pulled the wire from one place to other one, from one roof to the other one.
and he had something on the ears.
That
so
was
we
in
could,
Salzburg.
and
Some gas.
no, it was in the Vishwas.
Okay, now I want to say a few words.
Happy,
You
please.
finished, no?
Okay, that's about my sister Esther and Pena. I don't remember too much. They were still younger than I was. But I want to say something. It was very difficult at home. It was hard to make a living, not only for our family, but the majority people in our town were really poor. There was just a few well-to-do people, not too many really.
Can I ask you something?
But
Can I ask you something? Now that we are talking here, this story has to go over to future generations.
Yeah.
Tell the story how our two sisters, Esther and Pena, perished in the concentration camp. That would be very interesting to
well,
know.
I'll tell you something. When we left, it takes too long
And
to
they
tell
took you to
everything about
Auschwitz.
When we left in '44,
You
and we
didn't
got
leave.
to
They
Auschwitz.
took you to Auschwitz. They deported you.
They chased us out. That's what they did. They chased us out of our
To a
town.
ghetto.
Being my father knew a lot of people there, we were the last ones to leave.
The fort,
The
fort
fort.
transport.
So my sister Rose had a little boy. He was, I think, about 3 years old, and my mother and my two sisters and myself and Bernie, Harriet, we were all in the train, closed in, and we were traveling to Auschwitz. First of all, my mother turned around to my brother Bernie, but he doesn't remember that. But I do, because I was next to him, and she said, Birla, es ist vergessen zu sagen noch Mercadisch. Sagen noch
Say it in
Mercadisch.
English, they should know it.
Then as we arrived to Auschwitz, there was a Dr. Mengele, and they pushed the young people on one side and
They
the
were making
older,
the selections.
and the older people on the other
That's the
side.
selections.
My sister Rose had a little boy in her arm. One guy grabbed the baby and gave it to my mother. The baby was screaming. I can still hear him scream. So my mother walked a few steps and turns around again. She knew already she's going to perish. They're going to kill her. She said, kinderlijk, sag's nog in Skadisch. And
Okay, now, shall I?
wait a minute. So we were in Auschwitz a few months with Harriet, Rose, and Esther, 4 sisters. Then they took us, as the Americans came closer, they took us to a different camp. And in the different camp, I got sick. And they put me in the hospital. And my sister Rose, Harriet, and Esther were in the camp. Then all of a sudden, one morning, I hear somebody coughing. And I said, I think that's my sister Esther. But I couldn't see. So I took a chair and I looked over the wall. It was a petition. And I said, Esther, what's this to do? So she said, she's sick. So it didn't take long. She died from malnutrition.
Yeah, she was sleeping on the concrete floor and it was winter.
It's too long, Harry, to tell. She
But the kids-
died in the concentration camp.
She was
And the
sick.
commandant, the German SS, came over to me and asked me if I want to say goodbye to her. So I went over and they uncovered her, and I started to cry. So he said, if you're going to cry like this, I'm going to put you with her there. I'll take you away too. All right, then I went back to my camp, and we waited, and we heard the shootings, and we knew the Americans are going to free us. Finally, we got free. and we went home. I'll make it short because it takes too long. We went home. As we traveled home, we found out that my brother Harry is alive.
You didn't say that I met
We
you in
went back to
Germany.
our
I met
hometown.
you in Germany.
But
You didn't
that
say
you
that.
should tell.
Oh.
But anyway, Bunny, if I have to tell everything, he'll take
Well,
it
anyhow, we looked after the liberation. They had written in the walls all kind of names. And then I saw my sisters in a different camp. So we took a bus there with some other boys, and we went to them, and I find them over there. And that place was not far from Zwickau. You remember the city?
Yeah, that was in
Zwickau.
Poland.
No, that was
Zwickau,
Germany
but
on the
Zwickau.
eastern
One
side.
writer was born in Zwickau, a Jewish writer.
Oh, yeah?
There was a writer written in
You
Zwickau.
So I find them over there, and then we came home. We start coming home. We were hoping we'll find somebody. What happened? We were more afraid for the Russian than anything in the world. What happened? I took the 2 locks off on the door from the train. Haven't I taken off those locks? God knows what would happen to my sister. You remember that?
I want to say, as we found out that my brother Harry is alive, of course, you can imagine how happy we were. We continued going home. On the way home, it was very dangerous because they robbed you on the trains. And as we were riding home and wanted
The Russian soldiers.
we had a few possessions. And these Russians, they came and they wanted to take it away, but there was a Jewish guy, and he beat them up and threw him off the train, and that's why. Otherwise, I don't know what would happen. So as we got home, Harry, of course, was home. He prepared for us everything. House,
He made a home
beds.
for us.
And he made a really a home. And not only a home, he supported us all the time till we got to Austria. I make it short, that take too long.
I mean, you could talk, there's plenty of time.
As we got home, Harriet was home,
They can have somebody else Romanian, don't
my
worry.
sister Rose was there, and my brother-in-law Nathan, and we stayed for a year at home. And I want to say this too, this is a little funny. I was a young girlie, I don't remember. All right, it doesn't matter how old I was, Harriet and I. All the girls got married in the Vishwas, but Harriet and I didn't
They
want to
were
get
very
married
choosy.
because all the girls married with men who had been married before. Like a girl was 80 years old, she married a man of 30, and we didn't want
A
to.
man of 45.
And we didn't want to do that. So what happened? They all called us the old maids.
I know why. Because you never were afraid this guy will be alone.
Right. He was basically.
Shall I say now? No.
Yeah, lots of times.
No, du hast uns
Well, I want to say a little more about Harry, what he did for us. He put clothes on our bags. He supported us.
Salzburg went to Ebensee to Daskal.
And
And he
then,
made us cold.
as we were home, it was
Yeah,
really
yeah.
nothing doing there. Harry said, Kinderloch, it's time to leave. So he gathered us all, and whatever possessions we had, we started out on the road. Imagine young kids alone.
How long were you home for after the war?
A year.
This was
We
a
were
year.
home for a year.
Just a minute, Harry had a business, and it was a hard time to get him off those business.
Not
He
really.
wanted to be a
taxator.
taxator. He had a boss already prepared.
We
And Harry took it up to the baby.
We had a bar.
What kind of business?
We had a bar.
He wanted to be a chauffeur.
We had a bar in Gale, didn't want to stay there because the guy was singing.
You were right. Harry opened the
He opened a bar. We had plenty liquor. And
Now I know from Ben he has experience.
and Gail didn't want to stay in the bar because the Christian was singing in the bar. And lots of Dracula were here.
Shall
I
I?
let Irving say.
Okay, I just want to say a few words as how I met my dear wife. As I'm a survivor from the Holocaust too, after I survived the Holocaust, the tourists, I went around, we wandered around in Germany from one camp to the other camp. We went home to Munkac a little bit because I come from a family, a devoted family, from a family of 11 children. And after the war, they came back. I met about six brothers, 5 brothers and 1 sister. But little by little, they come also to America. But I came first to America. And finally, I wound up in America. I moved from one place to the other place till I moved into 178 Daly Avenue, and across the street, Bronx. And across the street used to live another family, Pasternak. There was also 2 brothers and 2 sisters. Three. It doesn't matter. I mean, there was 3 sisters and 2 brothers. And one of the sisters the name was Gay.
We got a lot of Gay.
And we met. When we went to work or we came home to work, we met each other and we gave eyes to each other.
We didn't even know each other.
You fell in love at the beach.
And finally, we got engaged.
Okay.
But we got engaged.
Honey, you didn't tell where we met on the beach. We met on the beach. You know, Sundays there was the big outing. We went to Orchard Beach in the Bronx. And there I met Daddy officially. He had a lot of friends. I sat down with him and we were talking. Then he said
he had a car already.
Yeah, he sold it to me for $100. I got stuck with it.
He had a car. And I was there.
$1942.
I was there with Harriet. And then when we went home, he asked me if I want to go home with him, and I said yes. But he came with a lot of friends, so there was no room. So he had one of his friends drive the car so I can sit on his lap so we can go home together.
That was an excuse.
That same day, he asked me for a date, and he took me out for dinner, and we went to the...
I gave him the telephone number. He asked me for the telephone number.
I don't remember that.
On the street.
Yes, I remember. On the street.
There was a Roxy that time.
A Roxy,
yeah.
Anyway,
Can I say something? Oh.
Lucky
Then I
she
went
had
out with Daddy for a long time. I don't know. I met him in 1951. And we went out and he took me to see his sister, and all of a sudden he buys me a nice watch. I still have it. I should have worn it. And he shows his sister what he bought me. On the way home, we were sitting in the car and schmoozing a little. He starts to talk. And I said, Irving, speak up. So he said, will you marry me?
Finally, we got engaged and we married. Now we have a family.
Did you buy a diamond ring?
Wait, we got engaged, we got married, we bought a business, we
got a diamond ring.
All right.
He buy a diamond ring.
And I married in a devoted family, Pasternak, and she married in a nice family, Halper.
That she has to say.
And now,
Actually, a brother-in-law like Harriet.
after that, we had 2 daughters born. One is still single, one is married.
Thank you, Dad.
How many grandchildren you got?
Take that
Yeah,
home.
No, it's good.
It's true. Nothing good for it. Everybody knows.
But she has a boyfriend.
All right. Now, the married daughter has 2 children, very lovely children. The name is Donnie, and they have a lot of nachas in B.
How is that?
She married. And the daughter, but before she was married, she had to go to West Point.
I chased her away. You have nothing to do there. Can I say
my
it?
brother
Tell the story.
to
No,
get
I want to know how after Malcolm looks.
Okay.
And dice and blonde.
and we are now happily married.
Where is she from? From the
And not only that about Esther Malcolm, I'll tell you something about Esther Malcolm.
happily
I came in with Bella one day with my wife, and I asked Bella asked Esther Malcolm, what are you doing? She says, I'm having CB. And what else?
Tuna fish.
And tuna fish. I didn't know what
She
CB is.
always says, Bobby, you have tuna fish for me. But anyway, we are now happily married, and we should.
You are happy.
How happily?
We are very happily married.
How many years?
After
How many years?
How many years we are
Yeah,
married?
I'm not gonna tell you. You have to tell me.
I'll tell you right away how many years.
The wedding was in 1978.
It's gonna be 39 years next next
Jeannie,
September.
39 years.
38 years.
So that's again, and we hope we should have more nachas, and that's
Oh,
the
man,
story
I
of
was
our life.
gonna make a little correction. What was it about?
Alright, who wants to go to shul? They want to go to shul when they come back, they'll
But
continue.
I'm
It's not 4 o'clock,
Oh,
it's
okay, who's
4:30.
next?
You know,
That's
Who
what
wants-
I already.
Harriet.
No.
4 o'clock. What time do you gotta go to shul?
Okay.
Another 10, 15 minutes.
Oh, so you still have
I
time.
want to know what they ate in your wedding. What did you eat in your wedding?
Carol, listen, I just want to say
I remember
something.
the
Donnie and Esther, they love when Zadie and I sing a song to them. I used to sing the song for
What's the
Carol.
song? I want to hear it. No interruption. Go ahead.
Oh, good.
Sing it.
We always used to sing the song for Carol and Sherry. And Zadie and I always sing it for Donnie and Esther. Zinala, zinala, shano, dreimal lochem steino, eine lernen teure, der zweite handelt mit Scheure, der dritte macht auf Bastirala, Shantarana, zinala. Hey, Benny, du kennst doch etwas Lied.
No,
I am the master of the beachy. My kids know the story of the
That's a good-
beachy.
Yeah, no,
Can you talk more?
I
Right.
hear more
Right,
about your
right.
family
Your
at home.
experience.
No, you know the problem is now saying the camera, we have to go to shul 4:30, and one is cutting off the other one.
But that's
Everybody has our story to tell. We only tell it. Now Harry's telling me, well, I don't let him talk. This guy says I don't let him talk.
She
We
wants
never
history.
finish.
She don't want your fight here.
Not under, but...
What?
They want history.
Yes, Harry, this is talk, Harry.
Benny,
You think it's
I
good?
want to
hear what Harry said.
Carol,
They want to know more
Sherry,
things.
what do you want to know? About Auschwitz?
I want to know a little bit about home. Some more stories about home than leading to the war. Leading
Oh,
up to...
from the,
Ghetto.
the way we, and when we went to school.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, when I started kindergarten, I sort of was very afraid. You know, the teachers there, if you didn't behave, they made you make knuckles, and they hit you over the knuckles, or
How?
they put you,
Show it.
or they put you to kneel. And I went to kindergarten. I don't know, Harry was in the fourth, fifth. I don't remember.
Fourth.
And I was crying so hard, so they took me into Harry's class. You don't remember, but I remember. And I went into him, and I'll never forget, he was patting my back. I should stop crying. We had 2 schools, and how many schools did we have, Harry?
Why,
What about...
Harry, why?
They
Why
had
not? One was Lane Cloister going
It's
on
about
under
the
the
main,
school.
the Farbula.
No, there was from the neighborhood they used to go.
Nobody, only Farbula. What's the
That's
guy
not
from the
which
Bula
one
had
was
to
Harry,
shoot?
it's a big one.
No, I
From
know
Cloister
that.
is over in another
And
sheet.
the Bula had to shoot. I shoot, that's all. Only one. Tell
How
me
many
which one.
schielen? Hoeveel schielen hebben we gehad in der hand?
You wanna say?
Harry
You
Houston.
wanna? You had the big shield,
Ja,
it was a matter.
ja.
And then you had a shield internaat, the
Yeah.
Mishnah to Yeshiva. And then you have a shield the Hebrat
Harry
Chaim.
Houston to the kid.
And,
Then you have the Hebrat Chaim. And then you have in the Talmud Torah Hebrat Timcha Payalim.
then,
And then you have the Moshe Steinmetz, das Interste bis Mederish. And then you had in Seufer's Gassel, a shield the Seufer, a got a shield, and then we gewinnt the second of clothes, we win a sack with a shield. So
Wait,
een braver
and
hebben.
I'm Kechner hebben.
En hem krijg je hebben.
I just want to say, my father was a chusset from Rachabreb, but the Rachabreb has a son in Israel. And Harry, you take over. You had made all the flags with the...
After the war, if you lived through the war, in 1948, I had married already Jeannie. We have the kids already. In
1948.
58.
Okay,
We had the kids already, and my dream was, by the way, I'll tell you kids a little history too, if you want to know it. In 48, when the war started in Israel, everybody was after us, we should go and fight for Israel. Naturally, we were 4 non-married people, no responsibility. They took us over in Austria to the Italian border to smuggle us over into Italy, and from there to Israel to the Haganah to fight. At that time, they couldn't smuggle us over the border, something, the borders were watched too much, and we were left there. The next day we heard that the Altalena boat arrived to the port of Haifa with the Irgun, and the Haganah wouldn't let them land. It came to a fight. One was shooting against the other. So I said, a what?
Look at the camera.
I said, if you have koyach and patience to fight with each other, leave me alone. And then we went back to Salzburg, and we were there from 48 to 49.
Correction, I
We
didn't
were
go
there
back.
from 46
I went to
49.
Italy and I spent there almost 2 years.
Yeah.
We went
That's
for
where I
3
picked up the
years.
language.
Harry, talk a little
The
about the
Italian.
tips and the Rhine.
Yeah,
Harry.
that is
How-
We'll go back to that. Let's finish this first.
Yeah, okay, talk a
Till
little.
48, and then we went back to Salzburg. And from Salzburg, we were waiting till 49 till we immigrated to the United States.
No.
And the story when we immigrated to the United States, you know already. It wasn't an easy thing. My brother Bernie went into work in the factory in Farberware. Naturally,
He became an engineer.
I didn't have a job. I didn't have a job. When I came here, I went into work in a pocketbook factory. Right away it got slow. I didn't have what to do. So my dear brother Bernie took me into work in Farberware. He made, at those days, $60 a week, and I made $30.
Harry, talk to the
And
camera.
Harriet and I made 15.
Harry,
No.
is that true that when you got your first job, you came home and you told them where is the job, you said by the second red light?
That was before.
Yeah, that by the second red light.
No, it's a bit of a
Let's finish well with the red light.
Wat?
Dat je wilt zien
Harry,
met de
dat
red
is
light.
terug aan de wisjes.
Oké.
Dat is terug aan van de school
We
ook.
go
Dat
back
is nog
to
een
the
zwarte van de
wishes.
school.
Okay, laat me gaan.
Well,
I had a big schooling. Handkerchiefs you didn't have. And we had to wipe the nose. Not like the
He's talking about the school. We went, most
We
of
had
the
a
people.
Jewish school in Gale.
Actually, we had a lot of
Lots
Jewish
of
schools.
schools.
Actually, a lot of Jewish
There
schools.
was a Jewish cheder and all the girls had to go to cheder to
Jacob.
learn. With Jacob, and we learned there the alibis, we learned there how to read, and that's why we know today a little davening and a little writing in Yiddish. Not all the children went to cheder or to Jacob. Most, whoever wanted to stand, whoever wanted to.
No,
They want to
even
get
not the
mostly
school,
from
not
the
the school
high.
Catholic side.
Harriet,
No.
you know,
Here.
when we went to school,
I want to hear what Harry has to
Then
say.
Go ahead. Shh. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I didn't hear. Carol say it.
Nothing. Nothing.
Anyway, when we went to school at home, the teachers there, the children were, you know, you had such fear for the teachers, not like over here.
Only the Jewish children.
And
Especially the Jewish children.
they were a little
All
more,
the children were under control. It wasn't.
like they made us go on Shabbos to school, you know,
That's
and
already the bad
our
times.
parents, of course we didn't go, we got punished. And our parents were very unhappy, you know. They were anti-Semitic there very much. And for instance, we would go swimming. As soon as we got into the water, there was like a German say.
Was
They
rivers,
start throwing
rivers.
stones at
As
us.
soon as we got into the water, they took our clothes, so we wouldn't have clothes to
But the
wear.
best part was when we used to go home and my mother baked fresh bread and the goyim, you know, they picked strawberries and they sold them, and my mother bought strawberries, fresh bread and the strawberries. They made the best part of the day. We forgot about those Germans throwing stones at us.
You didn't tell them where the Germans come from.
Go ahead.
That's
So
not
it's
that-
interesting.
Yes, it is. And
Yes.
it's interesting to know how and what.
Okay,
Oh,
okay.
You want to talk?
No, you say.
It was, as I mentioned before,
Kicking the camera.
we are on the Galician border. A lot of Germans came from Germany and they got mixed with Polacks, which were called Zitzers.
Harry, look.
In the 30s, when Hitler came to power, they started, you know, they were waiting the Germans should occupy all Eastern Europe and they should be big. We were going to school every day, we had fight with them. We were going home all blooded up. It was wars every day. Naturally, that was going on till about 40, 41, till the end, till they took him away to concentration camp, until they cleaned it out. Now, my wife Jeannie should be healthy and well. We go every year to the town where we were born, where I was born. Jeannie comes with me.
Jeannie was born in Brooklyn.
And I sit down with the peasants and give them a lecture. You didn't want the Jews, you don't have them here. Okay, look at yourself how you are. You thought if you take over the Jewish properties, how shall I say, whatever the Jews have, if you take it over, you'll have everything. You'll be rich, you'll have everything. They didn't have what to answer. So they asked me, what is Bernie Pasternak doing, your brother? I said, he's an engineer in the Farberware. How is he an engineer? He didn't even finish 4 elementary schools. How is he an engineer? I had to tell him the story. Then they asked me for Yossi Edelstein. He has a factory with 250 people. They wanted to know how come everybody is so rich and everybody has so, factories. Who are the workers? I said, America has 250 million Gentiles to work, and the Jews are all the top. And you know what they asked me this summer? After the revolution of 1989, of 1990, they asked me if I know some Jews who want to go back to build them up the commerce. So Jeannie says she don't know such a crazy Jews. Now you'll get it.
We lived, in the Vishwas, there were cobblestone streets.
Yeah.
And in our backyard, there was no stones or anything. And when it was raining, the mud was very deep. That when we walked through the yard, our shoes stuck in the mud, and we just pulled our feet out. That's how bad it was out here at the sled.
Can I say a few words?
We had a little garden in the back.
Sorry.
We had a little garden in the backyard, and we planted different kinds of vegetables. And I used to love to work in the garden.
Special fertilizer.
And we had a few trees, apple and prunes there.
Right.
We lived in a Jewish street. They were all Jews. It's called the Yiddish Gas.
The rabbi was living next door to us.
And also we had a yeshiva.
What was the name of the street, honey?
The Yiddish Gas.
No. Strada Mihailit Yavel numero 32. That's right.
And my brother still remembers the name.
And I remember,
Harry, you
and then the Ungarische Gas. What was the Ungarische Gas? Iparutza Horminskettu.
Das weiß ich Karpats.
Was soll ich?
Karpats.
Han heißt, now
Tell him the story before we go to shul from Rachavarabo.
Why you can tell the
We have plenty of
When my
time.
brother used to go to Romania, she always used to say to his wife, Jeannie, that, oh, there's a we have a very rich, and the town was rich, they have big buildings, big floors, 20, 30, 40 floors. So once she went along to Romania, and she asked her husband, Harry, where are the big buildings? He used to tell me always,
all the rich people.
Yeah. So they couldn't find the big building. Because
Tell a little more about the Vishwa.
Can I tell from Rachavarabo?
Ja, dat zei de man van
Ja,
Rachavarabo.
dat gaat over de kinderen van de
Ik kan zich toch om Rachavarabo. Well,
Ja, het is in Rachavarabo, het is in Rachavarabo.
Yeah.
Ja, aber nicht Rachavarabo.
Yeah, that's right, from Rachavarabo.
Die Daten, it was an Adverna, the Nastio, from Galicia. The Rachavarabo was a son from the Adverna Rov. And he was the rabbi, and he had like a little, how shall I say, stiebel. And we were davening there. In 58, there. Oh, in 58, I went the first time to Israel. When I went to Israel, I met the Rachavarabbi's son who survived. And that was in Ramla, near Lud. So he took me over to his shul, and he showed me the shul that the wind blows in and blows out too. But he would like to, to fix it up a little. So I gave him money, and then I took him along money and bought him the first Sefer Torah. When I used to go, I used always to go and visit him and take him something. In 1967, when it was the 6-Day War, I was there. And I went with Mari, with my son, right after the war. He had built there a shul, which we helped him with building the shul.
Ramat Gan.
Ramat Gan, he had built the shul there, a beautiful shul.
The whole family
And we had
helped
a
him build.
plug there, it's right in front of the door, with all the Holocaust survivors. And we send them every year. I send
A
them.
few times
and
a
my
year,
brother
Harry.
Bernie
It's a few
sends
times
them,
a year.
And Gail sends them, and the
Harriet.
main Harriet sends them, because, you know, he was at her wedding, the Masada Kaddish. He went all the way to Jerusalem. Masada Kaddish, and then Harriet with Simcha Wiesel. And she's very loyal, she's very devoted to him, to Bracha Rebbe. And it's there, if somebody wants to take over some other stories, Irving.
No, I
No,
said it.
I was gonna say-
My wife wants to make a little correction how we met later on. She's going to talk into, yes.
Okay, but you want to talk a little your experience in the war? And
Now I want to talk about the school. What happened? I was going in school. We made 4 grades because, like they said before, there was no higher grades than that. I think they put some people 5, 6, and 7 grade, but
There was still 7th grade.
but there were very few people
You
going that far.
I'm not
years
saying
later.
who went or who didn't.
So-
7th grade. all
so
the
the-
time.
Later, no.
All
I
the
don't
And
know.
the later
Yeah,
day. So what happened?
4 was compulsory.
7th
The other
grade.
were
4.
luxuries.
Now, everybody made the 4th grade. What happened? You are a young kid. They wake you up 5 o'clock in the morning in the coldest weather, and they send you to school, to Cheder.
The Hebrew school was a high.
At Cheder, that was the Hebrew school.
Oh, yeah.
Then 8 o'clock, we went to the Romanian school,
Public school.
at the public school. We learned some Romanian because there was a compulsory, right? We had to go.
Excuse me, Bernie, can you also tell them that you got up so early in the morning, it was still dark and you had
Well,
out?
that's what I want to say.
Yeah.
Then they sent us we went to the Romanian school till 4 o'clock. 4 in the afternoon, we went back again to the
To the
Hebrew school
Cheder.
till 8, 9 o'clock at night. All right. Now, I was so small one time, it was very cold, it was so much snow. Snow we had plenty. Some places, our mountains had snow, I would say all year round.
Right.
So it was very cold weather, and they had a light there. They call it a lantern, but I don't know how they would call it here. You open the side, you put a candle in, and then you see your way. You see what's going on.
Lantern.
All right. I was such a small kid, and I went to Cheder with that land, but cross where I was going, there was the cemetery. Further up, I would say, maybe two miles in the Yiddish Gath. Then I passed the shul, I passed the shul with the light, and what happened? It was such a strong wind, it blew out the light. I got so scared, I thought all the dead people are coming out from the shul and run after me. I almost collapsed on the floor. I was so sick that time. I don't even think I mentioned at home because it was no use, because the next day I had to go back to Cheder anyhow. It doesn't matter. And then
That's why you had such a good
one
education.
time, that's what I did. One time it was on a Friday and it only was a half a day. I didn't feel like going to Cheder that time. It was only Cheder that time for a half a day. So what happened? I was helping so good my mother in the backyard there with everything, and I didn't go to Cheder. And then my mother takes a look, she says, Beryl, what happened? How come you don't go to Cheder? I says, no, it's too late. I like to stay home today. She says, no, you gotta go to Cheder. So what happened? I said, okay, if you give me a note, then you needed me, I go to Cheder. I was afraid for the rabbi because beating there was nothing. It's like eating now, it's beating there.
They didn't beat you enough. They should have beat you enough.
So what happened, I got a note from my mother, okay, I went to the rabbi, and the rabbi asked me, would you like to hear what is in the note? I says, yes. So my mother wrote, Beryl didn't want to go to Cheder. He was bothering me all morning over here. Give him a couple of beatings. And that's what happened.
Bill, why don't you told the rabbi, Bernie told the rabbi I wouldn't come tomorrow to Cheder. The rabbi said, why wouldn't you come tomorrow to Cheder? He said, I'm going to have a headache tomorrow, so I wouldn't be able to come to Cheder.
Okay, catch it, those lessons.
Intermission now till they come home.
All the men went to shul now to daven. I will talk a little bit about my experience with the Holocaust. In
Yes, there's nothing in the
1944,
camera. Absolutely nothing.
it was right
Because it's really no system.
before
If
Pesach.
one was to say, let him say, not the other guy.
I can't talk now, therefore. Harry, I want
First,
to...
I want to say something.
Okay, Harry, go ahead.
Yeah, van de helpen.
But she didn't
We
talk.
are very happy
know.
now. We were waiting for my husband, Sal. He's right here. And I want to introduce him, but he's eating schmaltz here in Kalaks. And a little while he'll be able to say something.
Sally, you could look at the camera.
Harry bought and delicious schmaltz
Yeah,
that I brought from
the likes
Bora.
what-
And I paid.
You paid.
I want to say something on this too. We were all waiting for Mr. Wiesel from the Allenby Bakery. Thank God he arrived. He came to shul for Menyen. We finished Menyen and kind of hurry has a good appetite. And after he's gonna be finished eating, I prepared him what kind of speech he should make, how
Tell
he
him
met
what
my
to say.
sister. And he's gonna start after. Now, Gail interviews.
No, yeah, Harry, I want you to talk about the bishop.
No.
I want you to talk about the people with the different,
Culture.
not culture,
Culture.
with the different fachen.
Different,
Trades, different trades.
No, different manhugim, different
Customs.
Trade.
things was.
Talk about the street.
Doesn't matter.
It was
Why can't you
like
see
this.
me?
First,
Look into
Like the whole
the
car.
camera.
I had the
All
camera.
right.
We can't go, Harry. We can't go.
Look
First,
into the
first
camera.
everybody had a name.
So shall I go next
Harry,
to
look
Bella?
in the camera.
No, it's all right. It's all right.
Listen
It's
to
okay.
the
It's okay.
names. Listen to the
I got
names.
you.
What about the names, Harry?
First everybody had a second name.
What
Let's say somebody was Moshe. He wasn't Moshe Palak or Moshe Smook or Moshe this or Moshe... It was or Moshe Chaims or Berl Moshe Wolfs or Lezer Yankov der Kaktop or Moshe der Streuzag or Mishelem Pepik or Moshe Gasio or Mishelem Krilo. Everybody had a second name.
Aber das real
A
chill
nickname, Harry, that was a nickname.
Mishelem Krilo had a sister.
Yes.
The sister went away to Vienna to be a maid.
Yes.
In Vienna. If she was a maid in Vienna, when she came to Wisho once for a visit, she couldn't speak no more Yiddish nor German, Deutsch. So they asked her something, she wouldn't answer. So they gave her cake. So she said, I eat this instead of bread in Vienna. And then we have other things like this, like you had Favish and Kukus. Favish and Kukus learned to be a tinsmith.
Cocos, not cuckoos.
Cuckoo. How would you call a tinsmith? They used to make the from sheet metal.
Blechner,
stoves, a blecher, tinsmith. Yeah, like my brother Burnley was a blecher too.
A
In
tinsmith.
Favish and Kukus learned blecher by Moshe and blecher. Finally, he wanted to be a, how shall I say, a gesell.
I help.
Not a helper,
I have
a mechanic.
Yeah.
So he had to leave town, and he went to Cluj, to Klosenberg, to a big city, to look for work. How do you get there? There was no buses, no train, no nothing. We had a man, David der Blitzapper.
Why did he call him Blitzapper?
Because he chopped his blade. David der Blitzapper was going with the horse and wagon to Deish. Every week, and he was bringing barrels of gasoline.
How long did it take him one
If
way?
a car come into the town, he ran out of gas, it should be a little gasoline. So he went with David and Blitzhoppers to Cluj. He arrived to Cluj, he didn't have where to sleep, so he went to the Nieuwe Chevro, and he slept in the Holzkammer.
Okay, Harry, I want to ask
Let me
Bernie.
finish.
Oh, all right, make it.
Tell him how far Cluj is, Harry, from
I'll
Wisho.
let you tell.
Oh, no, you tell him.
But you don't know it.
No.
It's about 200 kilometers, about 160 miles.
How long did it take?
A week,
1 week.
by horse and wagon.
From the Vicious to
Right.
get to the
And he
other.
was in Cluj for about 2 weeks. He didn't have where to sleep. He slept with the Mimeshefer in the Holzkammer. And then he decided he's gonna go home. So he walked back to Deish and he was waiting for David and Blitzapper and he went back to Wisho. When he arrived to Wisho, we boys went over to give him Shalom Aleichem. He comes already from Cluj. He looks at us. First he didn't recognize the house already. And then he looks at us. I don't know you, he says. I come from Cluj already. That's the Favashim Kukus. Now you want to hear the story from Kakto?
No, Harry, excuse me. Bernie, I want you to tell When we were children home, it came Christmas time, how scared we were. When the Christians dressed up as if we
The time from the Bethlehem.
Yeah.
Die weiß de Maas.
No, ich glaube nicht, Harry.
Okay.
Like
Like
Christmas
Okay.
time, this time of the year, the Romanians there, they are Greek Orthodox. They're not Greek Catholics, Greek Orthodox. Romanian Orthodox, they call themselves now. They have some kind of a show. They used to dress up in different uniforms and costumes. And one was dressed like a devil, with a big whip. He was going on the street, wherever he saw a Jewish kid, he was beating the hell out of him. We were afraid to go out on the street at Christmas night. That was going on for about a week before Christmas or a little bit after Christmas. And then it came Easter time. They were walking on the street in front of the church when Jesus resurrected. In all these things, all these holidays. Now, Bernie, you want to tell about the Jewish holidays? Easter, I said about
No,
Easter.
you say, Harry, you keep on going.
About Lahadlu. Now let's go into the Jewish holidays.
Go into the Jewish
Yeah.
house.
It came Purim.
No, we all dressed.
Oh, soup.
We came Purim, but we used to get dressed up like here, like Halloween.
Like Purim dress.
Like Halloween, like they go here trick-or-treating. We used to go there Purim. It was Purim spiels. In Purim it was a mitzvah to get drunk. And everybody got drunk Purim, not the women and the kids, just the men. In the shul, every morning it was minyan, beginning from 5 o'clock in the morning till 12 o'clock. Whoever had yurtzat, he was given a ticket, like a kiddush. And it was people who were living of that. They were waiting in the shul, somebody should give kiddush a piece of cake with a drink of whiskey, and that's what people were living on.
Harry, it wasn't whiskey.
What was it?
Spiritus.
No, no. The spiritus, I'll tell you what spiritus was.
Horilki was it?
Can I talk now? Spiritus, it was wood alcohol, which it was cheap. Whiskey was expensive. They used to buy the spiritus, the wood alcohol, and used to cook it out, to take out the stink, and
Can I
they
have to
were
go
all
down
drinking it. Okay, because that was a cheaper drink. Let's hear from here, that's idea. Let's hear from you something.
Thank you.
Oh, now I can be interviewed. Anybody can ask questions.
I'm not a Marmorish, I'm a Budapester.
Oh, you
So I don't know
are.
nothing about what
Yes.
happened there.
Yeah, by the way, I explained before the story.
Now all of a sudden Budapest?
I explained the story how Marmorish was divided in half. Luckily, we fell under the Romania side, and my dear brother Lovaisel fell on the other side of the
On the
border,
Czechoslovakian
of
side.
the Tiso, which became Czechoslovakia.
We didn't fall, we walked there.
Oh, he walked there. Right. And over there they had an export, a fellow. It was nowhere there either, just like by us. They sent him away to Nitra to learn in the yeshiva. And there he was working in a bake shop. He was very lucky when he came here to the United States. I took him to Garden City. Got him a job in a bakery. He had no car then. I had to take him there and I had to bring him back from Garden City. Finally I got him a bicycle.
But they stole his
And poor
bicycle.
Bicycle, he used to have the bicycle.
No, Harry geneget met alles geen mater, maar dat is geen mater. Als dat is gelast in drossen, dan roept upstairs, men had te rekenen, men had de nacht.
That story I don't know, I just
Yeah,
know.
yeah, that's the
The
story.
tartan. So, and thank God, look at Mr. Weisel. He married off his daughter, but Cantor Rosenzweig's son. And the other daughter, he married.
I didn't know he had
I
another
mean the son. He married with a girl, she's Naideen, by me she's Rachel. Yeah, her name is Rachel, and they all call her Naideen. But Naideen comes to Rachel, I don't know. If she'll hear this interview, I ask her to forgive me, because I don't know.
I want to know, Harry,
Let's hear.
what kind of a profession did you take off in teacher? What did you learn?
Who?
You. What kind? Did you go be a shoemaker or what? Why were you there?
But I learned.
Yes.
But I learned to be a veterinarian.
Of course.
veterinarian.
A veterinarian, a field doctor. A Bahama doctor. I understood.
Okay, and then,
That's a very good profession.
and then what did you take on after?
Schneider.
You were a Schneider?
And then they sent me to learn to be a tailor. I was going every morning there, but I had to go home.
When was this? When was this?
Before the war.
Oh, before the war.
Finally, the boss got mad at me because I had to go and drive the horses too a little.
And what about you, Uncle Bernie?
So
What
the
did you
boss-
Wait there, wait.
So the boss got mad at me. He said, listen, he said, or you learn to be a tailor, or you go with the horses. And I was in a good mood. I told him, listen, boss, you know when I'll be a tailor, and you'll have needles long like the whips. Then I'll be a tailor. And I just charged myself. That was right then. Nobody else you want to know.
What else I want to know
Harry,
from you, Harry? You are a shoemaker too, I think. You
wait
went
a
to
minute,
Chico.
excuse me.
Chico.
Bernie, okay. I just want to say something. Harry, talk about the vicious.
That's what it
Talk
is.
Ask me
about,
and I'll answer you.
Harry, no. Talk about the doctors. How many doctors did we have there? If you went to pull a tooth out, they didn't give you no Novocaine. They just pulled it out.
They didn't
And
pull
if you
out
cried
Novocaine. They
out,
never went to
they
a
give you a
dentist.
catch. They hit you.
No, they took a string.
Did you ever go to a dentist? Only when you had to pull a tooth. No kid went to a dentist.
Harry.
No.
You had a toothache, you went to the dentist, you
Harry,
pulled it
please, Harry. I
out.
don't.
You had fillings.
Harry.
No,
I
we
didn't
only...
go-
They
But
took-
I went to the dentist.
Yeah.
Harry, I went to the dentist to pull my tooth.
Right,
You know how you did the bath? They took a string.
there, long ago.
And before even the dentist touched me, I started to scream. He didn't do nothing. I got so scared. So he hit me. Honest to God. That's what he did.
Well,
And
that
I,
was the name of the
I
game.
quieted down by the time I turned around.
What
my
was the
tooth was
dentist's
out.
name?
Well, Steinmetz, there was a
Female.
dentist, Steinmetz. I went to him. He had a daughter, Evie. He wanted to teach her how to take out a tooth. So he says, open your mouth to me, Rolf. I open my mouth. He says, Evie, you pull this way, you pull this way. I was screaming and jumping this way. You pull it on the side and this
No,
way.
you know where
And
he
while I
is?
He made it loose a little
In
bit.
Detroit.
Okay.
In Detroit.
You know, it came like Shabbos afternoon. After we came home, first of all, we went to shul in the morning. After we came home, we had lunch. You know, the basic food on Shabbos was chuln and kigel and fish, you know. And of course, TBA, without that, there was no Shabbos. After lunch, all the
What's the
parents
handwriting,
went to
Harry?
sleep. And the children stayed outside to be quiet, to give the parents a chance to rest. So we were playing. We had a
What the
Seder.
hell is this?
I see the men, we got together a few children, and each brought something. One brought a piece of fruit, one brought an...
Nuts, raisins.
Tell them, Harry, I take it over and
Yeah,
tell
okay, you
them.
tell.
Looking in the...
We brought nuts, we brought raisins, we went out in the backyard and we were playing and we were having such fun, and then we got bored and we went into the house and we always woke up the parents. The parents were sleeping Shabbos afternoon and they got so upset because they saw we woke them out. They were very tired. So then they yelled at us and we went back out to play a little more. We used to grade apples, and that was also included in the Seder. We had a lot of fun. The whole street was full of children, Jewish children, and we all played together. We never played with any Christian children. Very rare.
Now who wants to hear the story from the beach?
Wait.
I want to have this.
No, Harry, it's not time to not finish
Harry,
it.
Harry wants to say something.
Tata, you finish. You
Try to
finish.
talk.
Finish.
Okay,
Say
I am
something.
talking, I am
I
talking.
said, when you went to school, I want to know what happened when you went to
When we
school.
went to school, we were very scared because we had to walk
How
near,
far?
near I wasn't too far.
About a half a mile.
I have a mile. We had
It wasn't a half a mile. It was like a
half a mile
mountain.
down the
How
hill.
do you tell about the mountain in the winter time? We took the school bags and we went down the mountain into the guys.
So who shot his
Yeah.
plate?
The
Then
guys,
he
yeah.
beat us up most of
He
the
took the
time.
books away, and then my father had to go and ask him for the books back. Oshotski. Oshotski of the
Ushotski. Was that the guy, the lawyers that they've seen? Yeah, no, the got gone.
Belo.
Belo.
Ah,
Ushotski Belo.
Okay, Harriet, keep going.
Okay.
Tell about Saturday evening when everybody dressed up. Magagano Corso.
Magagano Corso, Mazahungetin, and we all got dressed up. The Corso was a place where all the young people got together and everybody had to show off if they had a new dress or a new pair of shoes. We all walked around and it was a lot of fun. We all,
Nur der Fisch braucht man trinken und
all the friends got together and Saturday night and Saturday afternoon we were all reading from the Jewish stories from Shalom Aleichem. One girl used to read to the other and we were all listening and it was very interesting, all those stories. We had a lot of fun.
Every Friday night, after we ate dinner, we sat around, we had
Oven.
No,
A wooden stove.
there was no
A
wood.
stove to heat with wood.
Come on, that was gas, natural gas.
Harry, it was a stove, and all the children, kind of 7
A
children.
Spur, das ist eine Spur.
My mother and father, we sat around the oven because it was in the winter time. And we ate Kerala, and my father used to tell us stories, either from the war or from the Chemish. And till about 10 o'clock at night Friday, we were sitting and listening to my father telling us stories. And Shabbos, I remember my grandmother, she always learned with us the Seder Shabbos afternoon. We were little kids. And we were so anxious to go out to play, but she kept us till we finished the Cenereno.
That's what the name was, the Cenereno.
Touch chemisch.
Well, the Cenereno, I don't think it's a touch
Ja,
chemisch.
it's touch chemisch.
That's a touch chemisch, yeah.
Zij is een koude best.
Harry.
Doet ze achteraan
Dat zijn er aan.
Doet ze achteraan gegeven, Harry. Doet ze achteraan
Okay,
Every touch from chemisch, Harry.
Harry, tell about in the winter time when the snow was so hard and we used to take the slates out and go around.
Winter time you were sitting in the house and there was no shoes, you couldn't go out in the snow. I remember better these things.
I know, we all had shoes. Harry, we all had shoes.
Wenn wir sogar heimlich, hat das zurückgekommen.
You had the night you
Harry,
had.
the way you talk, we walk around naked home.
You did.
Carol, what's so funny, Carol?
No, maybe we didn't have closets of clothes like we have here. We had a few changes, maybe 2-3 changes, but at least we had water and it was always clean.
We had them in America.
If we wanted to take a bath, we went with my mother to the mikveh. So we started the bath. So first my mother went into the top and she washed herself to the mouth.
That was even a fresh story.
Then Roosevelt,
Somebody else.
then Harriet.
Gail, that was in the mikveh, we went to the mikveh.
That's what she said.
The mikveh to the mikveh.
I don't know, we went to the mikveh too. Harriet, please, we went to the mikveh.
She's right, we went to the mikveh. I used to get up.
Bernie, let me tell you. So we were 5 girls. We were 5 girls and each one took turns to wash. By the time we went out, that water didn't look like water, it looked like mud.
And then, when they got through, somebody else took it over. From the top. Anyhow, we always got something, you know, like, let's see, like 10 cents to go to bathe in the mikveh. So for an hour mikveh, you had to go down the steps. So you always were waiting till the guy looks away. And you run down, you shouldn't have to pay the 10 cents. And it worked most of the time, 10 cents. I'll just give you an idea what it was. So we went in Schwitz, they let you in for nothing. But in the mikveh to bathe, you had to pay for that. Just to go down.
What's the Schwitz?
Auf dem dritten Treppen gehabt.
Schwitz, what do
The steam bath.
Ask him, I want to know if he knows.
I went once with my mother. I was really a little kid to the mikveh. And when the women go in and dunk themselves in the pool, one lady used to yell out, "Kusha, kusha." And I heard that and I started to yell, "Push it, push it."
Push it.
My mother grabbed me. She said, "You're not supposed to say that." I said, "But the lady said it."
Was last week.
No, it's...
How old were you?
Maybe I would
4
say
years,
about
3 years.
7 years, Donnie's age. A baby, but I can still remember I was yelling, "Push it, push it." And my mother grabbed me by the shoulder. She said, "Itola, you're not supposed to say that." But I said, "That lady said it, why can't I say it?" But they didn't give you no explanation those days. Really, you were so blinded about anything. They weren't talking about sex. They weren't talking about when you grew up, children grew up, and they had their feelings used to change. And they had to go to the friends to find out.
Why did you think
you won't talk about sex only when you get older. Only when you're 18 years old.
Between them.
Children, you know.
Dora, who's next from the school stories?
But, school stories, I tell you school stories.
Tell a school story.
When I went to school, you're not supposed to call only by the name, everybody by the name. If you, the teacher, come to call by the another different name as the regular name, they hold you back and you
the nickname.
Nickname. And they called me once, they were used to call me Tutti. And when my friend called me Tutti, so he had to write down 1,000 times a word, you know what it is, and he hold them back in school after the school finished. After the session was over, they had to stay there for half an hour because since that time the kids were afraid to call everybody by a nickname, only by the regular name. Now I'll tell you another story. When we went to shul, Kippur at night, and to Kol Nidra, there was everybody had to pray together with the older people. So the younger people, you know, they were laughing and talking. There is a line we had to say, Sulachti. After the cantor repeated Sulachti, we had to say Sulachti. But my brother was Bumi, the brother Bumi. He was funny. He was a wise guy. He told me everybody said Solachti. He said Wo slachti, and I start to laugh hard. Wo slachti. In each one there was each line you had to say Wo slachti. You always said Wo solachti, Wo slachti. So my older brother come. If you wouldn't be quiet, you wouldn't laugh. You're going to get smacked up. And then after that the cantor said again. Sulachti, and we said, Uslachti, and we start to we broke out in very big laugh. My brother.
Wait, could you talk about what a typical day was at home, and then Shabbos, what Shabbos was like when you got up in the first one, a typical day when you got up in.
Forward for Shabbos. It was very nice. My mother, should rest in peace, used started with the shopping. Thursday she went to the Fleischhacker, that means to the butcher. She bought the meat. And she got everything ready. They started to cook Friday because we didn't have refrigerators. We used to store everything in the basement. It should be cold.
What did she make?
She made soup and fish, soup, chicken, schnitzel, that's hamburgers for Shabbos, to have cold for the children. Gave galer at the bundle, they didn't make for Shabbos.
Yeah, what gemacht?
Don't forget, we had fish, we had plenty of carb because they
had live carb.
Well, I don't know, what was that place? We had a place where they brought in the live carb, and it was pretty cheap Friday. They bought live carb. They brought it in with the trains, they brought it in with the and they had some breathing area over there, and they had
and anyway, Friday we didn't have like here.
No, go ahead.
Friday there was a day, but we had my parents and my mother used to get up very early to make bread. So every morning, every Friday morning, we got up. Somebody got up in the morning to make fire in the cold called stove, because there wasn't like here in America. You put on, you put on the light, the gas, and there was already heat, or you put on the thermostat, and there was already warm in the house. So everybody had to get up early morning to make splinter wood to put in the cold stove, to warm the water, because we had to have warm water to make the bread, to put in the kneading the dough for the challis. So for every Friday we made the mother made challis for Shabbos, and the Ziertman sie gemacht hat Flammplessel. Flammplessel means that after the challah took off, they still off a piece of white dough, and they put it separately, made a piece of they made it flat with a Walgerholz, with a roller pin, and they put it in, and they baked it in the stove. They had a big stove, but they made it hot with the wood. So after that, the Flammplessel came out. They put it on.
Hurry up! I'm talking a little faster.
They took out the Flammplessel and we put it in with couscous, with fat, and everybody ate it as that bread. It was delicious.
Okay. Could you talk about a typical day at home?
Okay,
a typical
I'll give you a typical day. During the end of the summer, where we come from, it was no wineries, no grapes were grown. But where your father come from, or Aminkash, it was grown grapes, wine. But you had to make wine for Pesach. How did they do it? They took the grapes, they throw them in a barrel, and then they took tutti.
The man who used to step on the grapes, they took off the shoes, and they had to bathe the feet.
Wash your feet with soap and water.
And cut off the nails.
Dad, please let Harry talk. Let Harry talk. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And they stepped on the.
By the way, they never washed their feet. They went in with the grapes like this.
They washed their feet.
She told you to let Harry talk.
Please let Harry talk. Go ahead.
But it was a typical breakfast in Europe when we grew up.
Yes.
We got up in the morning, like Bernie said, made a fire. And you look through the window, but in the winter time,
but tell where you got the wood?
You couldn't see the windows because it was all icy with all kinds of flowers. So after that, we get up, my mother or one of the children would go for rolls, bring rolls, or we had bread in the house. And we baked potatoes for breakfast. And we herring, like my father came home from school, he would have a schnapps, have a baked potato, a piece of schmaltz herring, and a coffee. That was breakfast. Lunch was the main meal, the big meal. So sometimes we have soup and meat, or something, some different kinds of meat. And the evening was a light meal, like takamet meloch, or noodles and cheese.
What is takamet meloch? Tell me
what it is. Mamaliga.
Maybe cornmeal.
Cornmeal. That was a typical day. It didn't change.
What kind of brochot they made over bread?
Every day.
What kind of brochot they made over bread? Shabbos. A whole week was a Shabbos.
I don't know.
Right. Okay, that's what I'm asking. Malaim broit ook.
If you want to correct, no, you can't correct how be mad.
Could you talk about the war also?
Now talk about the war.
Talk about the war.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry. I think Mr. Wiesel should tell the story.
Let him eat first.
He's not finished.
Before you go to the war,
Sam, what are you doing? You put on pepper.
Before you go to the war, one more thing I want to finish about the school. I am a lefty, and I went in school, and I took the pencil in the left hand. Nowhere, I just got a bank in my hand. I had to take the pencil in the right hand. I took the pencil in the right hand. I couldn't even write with the right hand. I tried very hard. Soon the teacher looked away. I took the pencil in the left hand, but the teacher was watching me and came back another bank in the hand.
Should have break your bones.
So what happened? I learned how to write with my right hand because I had no choice, but I'm still a lefty. Then I went to learn a tinsmith, and I wanted to be a tinsmith very bad. So I took they only had right hand shears. So I took the share in my right hand and I tried to cut, I couldn't do it, so I had to switch around things.
And the thing is downstairs open there. Okay, 1944. What happened?
Okay, I went to learn tinsmith and they didn't have a left hand share because I am a lefty. So what happened? I had to learn how to cut with the right hand. So what happened now? I cut with my right hand, I write with my right hand, everything I do, all the other things with my left hand. So to ask me if I'm right or left, I don't know what I am. Because I do it both ways.
Which hand you
With both. I do everything with both. Now, it helped me in my job, what I was doing with both hands, because I had to use both hands. And I could do the same thing with both hands, with the right or with the left.
Smart brother I have.
Are you finished?
And I'm finished with the right hand.
1944, it was April. It was Pesach time. We all got ready for Pesach like normal.
Why don't you tell us what's home for Purim? 44 was still home
I
for
tell you, and 44, Sherry, Pesach. We had a normal Pesach, but right after Pesach, things started to
Change around.
what?
Situation got
Something
bad.
was buzzing, but we didn't know what was going on. It took about 6 weeks till Shavuos. Then at Shavuos, Yontif, we knew already something is happening. Because a lot of things came to the visual and everything was very quiet. We didn't know what was going on. All of a sudden, they started to bring in all the Jews from the vicinities into our town. And
Tell them they made ghettos and
but that's what,
tell them the Germans occupied the first. They didn't
Harry,
stop
take
them.
it, talk about that. Talk about it. No, er gewinnt noch, bist gewinnt daheim bei der Ghetto?
People who went
Wat
around.
dat
I
is
write
the
the
army?
story. Ja, aber können um die Deutschen besetzt.
Anyway, Harry finished and you tell.
In 1944, the Hungarians tried to jump out of the war. The Regent Horthy of Hungary, he had negotiations with the Western allies. They wanted to jump out of the war. And the Germans got to know that. Then they invited Horthy into Germany. As he was in Germany, Horthy was the Regent, how shall I say, the leader of Hungary. So they arrested them there and they kept them there and they occupied the country. Very quick they occupied it. As soon as they occupied the country, the first worry was to start with the Jews. They started to make the ghettos, they congregated them. They took them from all the towns in one city and they made a ghetto that was Pesach time. And then after everything was finished from all the towns, around Shavuos time, they took them away. They put in 100 people in a freight car through Poland into Auschwitz, a concentration camp. That's why we have the Yursa the first day of Shavuos. Gail Irving, now you next.
No, Mommy. I want Mommy to talk. Ma, could you please come back?
She's downstairs.
Wait.
Wait, Sherry. When the Germans came into our town, you know, all the Christians turned against the Jews. So they were walking in the street and singing. The Christians who knew us, neighbors, used to sing in the street that their God came and the Germans occupied our vicinity. Shavuos time, we were all very sad because we knew something is happening.
Gail, Shavuos we have Yursa already. Shavuos was finished, you will know.
So anyway, Shavuos time,
I'm finished.
Sherry,
Yeah, I'm listening.
we knew something is happening.
That was
But
Pesach.
it was so quiet. All the people came into the ghetto, you know, to the Vishwas, and everything was very quiet. Then all of a sudden, one morning, everything shoots out. They're starting to gather the Jews and kept taking them away. First, what happened there? So first, wait. So first they took one transport. Then a week later they took other Jews.
1 second, 1 second.
Sherry, I think I spoke already that all the trains came in and we were the last ones to leave the Auschwitz to Auschwitz. I think I spoke about Auschwitz, how we were there, Harriet and Rose and myself and Esther, my sister Esther. My sister Esther was very skinny in Auschwitz, you know. She was growing, she was 12 years old, and she was growing, and from not having food, she got a lung disease. So, of course, every morning, like 4 o'clock in the morning, in the camp in Auschwitz, they used to take us out and count us. It could rain, it could be snowing. We had practically no clothes on, freezing for hours, sitting there, and they let us stay there, stand there, straight. If we moved chas v'sholem, we got hit. So, early in the morning, they came, the Germans, and counted us. And of course, they picked my sister Esther because she was so skinny. We used to take beads and rub it on the cheeks. We should look healthy. They took her away to the crematorium. We had a friend there by the name Lady Moriko. She was some kind of big shot there. She ran to the doors, to the gates where my sister was, and she brought her back to us, back to Auschwitz. But when we got to the next camp, my sister got sick and she died there.
Why did she got sick? But she
Because
slept on the concrete floors and she was a
She
young
didn't
kid.
sleep she's on the concrete floor. We had
All right, on
bunks.
the lager, in
Bunks,
working
bunk
lager.
bed. No, we never
Never
slept
slept on the concrete.
Never, Harry. We always had bunks. But the bunks were, in Auschwitz, the bunks were big, I will tell you. See the stable, half of the stable, 3 people slept on the bunk. And there were 1, 2, 3 floors. That's why I have claustrophobia, really, from Auschwitz.
How old were you? How old were you?
14, 15. Sherry, if one person wanted to turn, everybody had to wake up and turn.
So small was the place.
And the place was so narrow.
Okay, Harry.
19 she was.
Harry, now introduce your brother.
The wife was the best, best.
The place
My
was so...
brother. Okay.
Let me finish.
Let her finish. Now I have a job.
The place was so narrow that people couldn't move. And you couldn't even go out if you had to go to the bathroom. You couldn't go, you had to wait till in the morning. Till they count you, then you were allowed to go to the bathroom. That's how bad it was. Then when the Americans came closer and closer, we had hopes that we're going to be free. And we always said America wouldn't let us die like that. But finally we got free.
How were you free?
Liberated.
How were you liberated? Or when? What happened?
Okay, after we were in Auschwitz, and the Americans got closer to the camp, one morning they picked us up and we started to march. We marched for days, Sherry.
To where?
They kept on going towards the
Germany.
Towards Germany. Towards Germany. Bernie, the Americans are free.
Auschwitz, you know what you say? You left Auschwitz, the Russians come
She wasn't
He
Speakout. They were in labor camp already.
She was talking about Auschwitz first.
We left Bernie's Auschwitz. We left their people. I didn't know what happened. So we walked towards Germany, because there were certain places Germany wasn't occupied yet. And
Why wasn't Germany occupied yet?
because Americans, certain places had it.
They were withdrawing you.
The Germans
From the
were
occupied
withdrawing.
territory.
So how many
deeper
days
into
you
Germany.
walked? How
For a
many
week,
days?
Sherry,
How
without
many people
food
arrived?
and
How many
without
people arrived?
water, Sherry. And as we were walking, Harriet and Rose and I in a line, I ran out to get a beet,
Sugar beet.
and one of the SS saw me. I don't know, Harriet, if you remember that. he pointed a gun at me. Either you put down that or I'm going to shoot you. Of course, I threw it down right away. So we walked for another couple of days, then they stopped us and they hid us in the German houses, not in the houses, in the shires, in the
Barns.
and the barns. And we were here shooting there. You know, we were all kids and bombs throwing. But somehow we survived. And after that, and the next morning, all night I was shooting. The next morning, the Americans came in. As soon as they saw us, they started to cook for us. In the middle of the field, they took out butter and margarine.
But I get my story.
Go ahead, finish talking.
And they started to feed us. A lot of people really died because they ate too much and too greasy food. Because their stomachs were shrunk from no food. You know the rations where it was in Auschwitz. A piece of bread once a day and a little soup. And then we got to Altenburg, a city in East Germany. We got liberated in East Germany. Every day there was a list.
Go ahead.
Every day there was a list in town by the mayor's house. By the mayor's house who survived. And one day we looked at the paper and we saw my brother burning. Then we got together with him and we started to get ready to go home.
Wait, what month was this in that you were liberated? What month?
In April.
April 1945.
Now talk about your father. Your father had lived
My father was almost liberated, and he had some kind of job.
He'll know better.
He had some kind of job in camp.
He'll know better because Harry knows the story. Harry, what happened with that?
I didn't know that till recently.
Oh, right, recently. That's what it's important.
The story is this.
Kick him to the camera right
He got from Auschwitz somehow.
Harry.
Somehow from Auschwitz he got to Theresienstadt.
That's in the thing.
Czechoslovakia. So it wasn't Theresienstadt in concentration camp. I was always wondering how did he get to Theresienstadt. Recently, I don't remember who I was talking, and I come to the idea how it was. He was a soldier in the First World War, Austrian-Hungarian. He spoke a perfect German. He must have got in touch with the Germans, and they must have given him a break and taken him over to Theresienstadt. Theresienstadt was a model camp. People weren't so hungry there. They kept it there. The Red Cross came or something. They showed them the concentration camp, a model camp, right? Somehow they bombed the camp. That was in 1945 in Pesach, already April. They bombed the camp and he got killed in that bombing. And when I married Jeannie and I told her that story, her mother thought I'm somehow mixed up. How she said the American killed him? Because they bombed the camp, they didn't know who was there.
Now, where were you? What were you doing during the war? Where were you?
I was with the Hungarian slave labor. That's a whole story.
So let's hear it briefly. Tell a little bit.
Wait a while. Now, before we come to my story, Gail, come here. Before we come to my story, now let's all the future generations. I want you to know. Your Uncle Sal Wiesel came over here special to take part in this affair. He should tell his own history, his own story, and by the way, the most important thing, how he met his dear beloved wife, Harriet Wiesel. And now let's listen to the story. Here
Go ahead.
Mr. Sal Wiesel.
Go ahead, Sally.
Well, before I start my story, I have to tell you, you should know that I have instructions exactly what to say. Harry told me on the way home from school, you better say what I'm telling you, otherwise.
What did I tell you to say?
Well, the story, he said, if he would not send his sister to Israel to marry me, I would have stayed an old bachelor.
You didn't start right. You had Emil was going to marry her and I didn't let her. And then we came to the United States. I sent her to Israel to marry you and bring you here to us.
Thank you very much, Harry, for sending her to Israel.
You want
Because,
interview Sherry?
really,
Mommy, me and mommy.
I don't think I would find a wife like my wife is or around here.
Thank you, thank you.
Going to miss something.
So I really paid for me to wait because I did not get married very young. I was really an old bachelor when I got married. I was already 32. Because this all happened because my wife did not arrive to Israel before.
Thank God I came in time and we found each other.
Right.
And we have two lovely children.
And grandchildren.
And we have two lovely granddaughters, and we are getting a third grandchild.
And wait a while. I didn't know that.
I told you. I told you. I told that to tell you.
Or my question
No,
was
then that's so funny. What Harry said. He thought Mike honey, you finished already, or you want to say something else? So fast. So fast.
Starting the camera.
That's all Harry thought.
That's all the instructions gave me to tell you.
Is the camera on or off?
Something without Harry's instructions. Do you only talk about Harry?
Well,
to say? You are an independent person.
Everything what they said already before, because we come from the same area, from the same neighborhoods.
You come from the Czechoslovakian side.
Czechoslovakian side, but it's the same Marmara, just one as the other. We went through the same life history. A little different, a little way, one way from the other, but it's ended up about the same. One was concentration camp, one was different. We tried to say.
Damn it! Keep it down!
Tell a little about where you were hiding in Budapest, about your history a little. You were not in concentration camp, you can say that. Where you were. You were with the Germans there, and you were working for the Jewish people, and you had German papers. Why don't you
Sally, tell that story of when you were when you escaped.
Yeah,
from the
I told them to
that.
tell a little of that
Okay,
story.
Okay, shut up, everybody.
I was when they sent me away from home to go to yeshiva, I was in Nitra, which was about 700 kilometers from my hometown. And when 1938 or 39, when Hitler occupied Czechoslovakia, one part where I was, he gave to the Slovakians and they became an independent state. But this part where I was born belonged to the Hungarians. So I had the choice to stay there and apply for citizenship, which they didn't give you only for about 6 months or a year, or to go back home. So after my parents weren't alive anymore, so I decided to stay there. And I was there from till about 1942, till every week, every Friday night, they accumulated all the Jews they wanted to take out to the camps, which they had certain orders to supply every week 500 people to send away to concentration camps. Now, if they did not find the people home, the ones they were on the list, so they took anybody, everybody. So my first thing was my bad experience when I paid one of my non-Jewish neighbors to let me sleep over there one Friday night. And in the morning, after I paid him everything, in the morning, when they woke me up, I found the police near my bed. He called them, he turned me in. But they took me to the school building where they had concentrated all the rest of the people. And I managed to escape from there too, because it was only but a few hours away from the time that they took us out. They're supposed to take us out to the train to send away to the concentration camp. So the story how I escaped is a little too long. I don't want to go in details here.
Just a little from Hungary.
So then I went over. In Hungary was a little, the situation was better for the Jewish people than it was in Slovakia. So I went over the border to Hungary. What wasn't easy because I got caught twice on the borderline and had to buy myself out, once with money, once with escaping. The third time I managed to get into Budapest, where I left
the capital of Hungary.
The capital of Hungary, which I was living there at the beginning. I was living as a Jew. But when I saw the situation getting worse for the Jewish people there too, so I decided to get myself papers as a non-Jew. So I got a birth certificate, social security card, with all the other papers that we needed for. And I also got a paper which I had volunteered to the German army, which I bought for money. Volunteered to the German army, but it was a postponement like for a few weeks. Later on, after when I was working in a fish store there, later I got friendly with the Germans because I spoke a German. And I got friendly with German soldiers, with the Gestapo. And we went out together usually after every day after work. We used to go out to movies and coffee shops for dinners. And but the underground was watching me. And one day, one of these guys, of the underground guys, approached me and he said, we know who you are and we know who you go with. And I'm telling you who we are. We are one of the underground and we need help from you. I said, well, the situation right now is every man for himself. Yeah, not much I can do for you. He said, well, if you're not going to work with us, we're going to turn you in. The Germans will find out who you are. So then I got in touch with, I had no choice, and I got in touch with the underground, and we were working together. But the underground was already very active at that time. They had their own factories, their own printing shops, where they made all papers for the people who wanted to live outside, non-Jewish papers. And every few weeks they used to change my paper, which I did volunteer to the German army. One day, one afternoon rather, well, one evening, one of the guys got caught from the underground, and they beat him so badly he could not take the pain anymore. They was burning the bottom of his legs, of his feet. And he gave out the place where we usually meet. We used to meet every evening, every night on a different spot. So one evening, when we got together to the meeting, the Hungarian Nazi, what you call it?
Government.
The Nyilas were waiting for us already. Encircled the whole place and they took us in. Well, the other ones, they tried to tell the story they're not Jewish, but did not help much. When it came to me, well, they saw I had German papers, so they were really afraid to touch me. They didn't know what to do with me. Then they decided to turn me over to the German headquarters, to the Gestapo. When they brought me into the